We're live. Hey guys, it's Luke. Welcome, welcome. Hope everybody can hear me clearly. Today's live class should be very interesting. I have some cool videos to show you. We're going to be getting this hair out of my face. I think I got it now. We're going to be looking at some... It's still there. Is it an eyebrow? Is it a long eyebrow? What the heck is that? We're going to be looking at some videos talking about accent, English accent. We're going to be actually looking at some interesting videos about what American English sounded like 70 years ago, which is very different from how English sounds today. And we're going to be talking about why language changes over time, what it means to sound native, right? That's what we're going to be talking about. And I'm going to show you some other things related to accent too. And of course, as usual, I will be answering your questions. So make sure you have some good questions. If you don't have good questions, I will be deeply disappointed. And that's that. If you're here to just enjoy yourself and relax, and you don't have questions this time, what was that sound? I'll give you a pass this time. Give you a pass. One pass only. Otherwise, you have to ask good questions. And the other deal we make is that you have to hit the like button. If you gain any value from these live streams or videos, then I would really appreciate it if you could punch the like button, punch it as hard as you can on your computer, because then that tells YouTube, hello, this is a video that's playing somewhere. Other people should come to watch it too. And don't forget to check out my courses, especially my Udemy courses, in the links in the description. You can check those out below. The first link is Udemy. They're doing a big sale right now, so you can check out those at a discount. Ooh la la, a discount. Okay. Sleepwalker is here. Yarmala is here. Arcana is here. Luba is here. Rolfie is here. Karina is here. Richard's here. Everybody's here. So many people here. Well, luckily, I have some, I think, very interesting things to show you. And I like to try to... So, I am still figuring out, how to do YouTube videos and stuff. But my goal is to try to figure out what I can offer you, what I can bring you that you might have trouble finding yourself. Stuff that's not obvious, like, okay, great, phrasal verbs and expressions. Fine, that's useful, but it's obvious. You can go search a lot of that stuff on your own. What can I, in these live streams, discover for you that you may have no idea about, that you may have no sense of? Because, I grew up in my culture, right? But I have to try to think about what might be interesting to you. So I think I have something today that I think you will think will be, will be interesting. I think I have something to show you that you will think. I think I have something to show you that you will think is interesting. Yes, there it is. That's my sentence. So I'm going to show a video that I think is kind of useless, but very interesting and insightful, if that makes sense. Okay, Dinesh is here. Rolfie's here. Good to see everybody's here. Yes, Rolfie, we meet often. I'm always glad to see Sleepwalker. I see we have some people also chatting in the WhatsApp group. If you guys have questions outside of these live streams, you can leave them in the comments, of course. But since I pretty much just read comments, and I don't usually answer questions in the comments that often, it's probably better to ask questions either in the live streams. I mean, I would like to try to answer questions in the comments, but I can't always get to them. Or in the WhatsApp group. The WhatsApp group, people in the WhatsApp group, they can ask whatever they want, and I try to answer. So, we're also going to be talking about a movie on Saturday and Sunday, I guess. We're doing a movie weekend. Even if 2 people watch it, I don't care. It'll be interesting still. Everyone else can enjoy the discussion between me and Luba, I guess, since we might be the only 2 who have seen the movie. We're going to be watching the movie called Ex Machina. It's called Ex Machina. It's a very interesting movie. So If you want to join the discussion, make sure you join the WhatsApp group and also join the watch the movie. Don't join the movie. Watch the movie. Sorry, my brain is a little bit messy today. I don't know why. Sometimes everything's clear and I know exactly what I want to say and how I want to say it. Sometimes things are a little chaotic, but that's okay too. I welcome it. Because you never know what's going to happen when things are all wacky. Okay, so I guess we can just get started with the first video. Because it is very interesting. Let me just double check to make sure we're actually live and it's showing up on YouTube properly. Let me see. Which ways can we use two phrases? I am down with this. I am up for this. Okay, I have answered that question before in a live stream, but I'll answer it quickly again as well. Okay. What's the difference between accent and pronunciation? Ooh, I like that. I like that. I have my own sort of sense for it, but let's see what the dictionary says. Accent. Dictionary. A distinct mode of pronunciation of a language, especially one associated with a particular nation, locality, or social class. A distinct emphasis given to a syllable. Okay, that's not the one we want. And then pronunciation is the way in which a word is pronounced. Yeah. So you don't have to believe me, but I'm right. That's my understanding of these two words. Accent focuses on where you live, or whether it's a country or part of the country, a region, for example. And sometimes if you're in a subculture, for example, people maybe in the Amish community talk like this, but that's not a particular part of the country necessarily. That's a subculture, okay? And I'm not trying to make fun of it. That's just how I hear the Amish accent. Whenever I do accents, I'm not trying to mock anybody, but I just like doing accents, even if they're not even good. Then pronunciation. So your accent might be, you have a British accent. Okay, but in England, you might have a northern or a southern accent, right? You might sound posh or not. You might sound like the Queen. Oh, hello. Or you might sound completely different from the north of England, for example. Very different sound. Or we might say, for example, someone in a subculture, or we might say someone from a particular ethnicity might have a particular way of speaking, and we can sort of connect it to that group or that region or whatever it is. Then, pronunciation. Now, this is a much broader idea. Pronunciation is simply the way that we say a word, the way that we say a sound of a word, the specific sounds that make up words. The dictionary definition is the way in which a word is pronounced. Now, that's not a good definition. I don't like that Oxford Dictionary, because if you say the word in the word that you're trying to define, that's silly. But the idea is just how do we say a word? Now, so when someone says you have a British pronunciation, a British accent, do we mean the same thing? Well, we kind of do mean the same thing, but for British pronunciation, we might be focusing on how do we say the word, for example, banana, as opposed to, oh, you have a British accent as this overall thing that's related to you and where you live, how you say words generally according to where you live. So that's the idea. Do you recommend using more an idiomatic dictionary or just looking for quick translation for new word or learning? KS. Do you recommend using quick translation or quick translation because my teacher is a big fan of Cambridge Dictionary? Is it effective to learn new words? Well, depending on how you use it, all dictionaries are effective to learn new words. So Richard says, do you recommend more using dictionary or a quick translation? Because my teacher is a big fan of Cambridge Dictionary. Is it effective? If you're at a low level of English, then you probably can't understand what I'm saying. Bye-bye. If you can understand what I'm saying, then you should be okay to start using a dictionary, an all-English dictionary. The problem with translation is it really is just a rough meaning. If you translate in Google a sentence, a paragraph from your language into English, it's probably not going to make too much sense in English. It's going to sound awkward. It's going to sound weird. Now, translators do well, usually word by word. Not always, by the way, because some things just don't quite go over very well. But if you take longer pieces and try to translate them directly, even with the most advanced translators like Google, right? It's still going to sound really weird. All you have to do is look at the English translations on a Chinese restaurant menu in China to see how far this can go. It's hilarious, right? This is the problem with translations. It just doesn't catch everything because words may have connotative meanings. The word you translated last year may now have a new connotation or a social, cultural meaning that isn't in that dictionary or that translation software, right? So dictionaries can be behind and translators can be behind, and the way that we use the word now might be completely different from both. Eventually they will catch up, okay? Now, a dictionary is better because it does try to give you the breakdown of the different ways in which you mean it. If you're trying to translate something, the translator is trying to figure out which way you mean it, right? If something, for example, is classic, well, which way do you mean the word classic? Because it can be used in different ways. It has different connotations. And so the translator is trying to figure out in the context which meaning of the word classic you mean or is meant in the text so that it can make sure the whole text makes sense. Newsflash, it can't do it perfectly. They're not good enough yet. That's the fact. Maybe someday they will be. Hopefully, that would be wonderful. But the dictionary breaks that down for you. The dictionary says, all right, what different meanings so far does this word have? There's a noun version, there's a noun version, there's another noun version, and then there's a verb version, and then there's maybe even an adjective version of the word. And you can look at the explanation or definition of each form of the word, right, or each meaning of the word, and hopefully, if it's a good dictionary, you can have a couple of example sentences. So when I talk to Google, if I ask a word, I'll say, hey, what does, hey, I'm not going to say it in case you have a Google device near you. I'll say, hey, what does tautology mean? Then I'll get a definition, and then I'll say, can you put it in a sentence for me? And then I'll get it in a sentence, and I'll begin to figure out how it's used. Now, again, that's also not perfect, but it is better than trying to translate from your language to English, generally speaking, especially if we're talking about paragraphs. So if you're able to understand me, try to use a dictionary. Are all dictionaries the same? I think that some of the traditional dictionaries are sort of just so-so because they give you a very formal definition, and sometimes it's not satisfying. The dictionary definition of the word pronunciation is the way in which a word is pronounced, and that is a noun, and that is from the Oxford Dictionary. Are you satisfied by that? I'm not. That's a weak definition. I'm unsatisfied. Okay, you can sue me, Oxford, but that is, in my opinion, not good enough, okay? What you want to find is a dictionary that puts it in context. Now, vocabulary, I believe it's vocabulary.com, has a good presentation of a word because they'll try to put it in a context for you. They'll try to put it in a paragraph for you, okay? The free dictionary I really like. Not because their definitions are so great, right? Vocabulary.com, they're quite good because the definitions are pretty good. They put it into a context. That's nice. And I like the free dictionary because the free dictionary gives you lots of examples underneath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All the meanings in gold font. It's very nice. It's easy to read. And, as I've said 10 billion times, the free dictionary has idioms, meaning you can search not only single words, but phrases and idioms as well. And you can explore them very well. You can search synonyms and related words. You can even search by the beginnings and endings of words. So it's very good. So I would say, to summarize all this, translate if you can't understand me, which is to say, forget what I just said because you didn't understand what I said because you need a translator. If you can, use an all-English dictionary to find new words and phrases. Find one that fits you best. I recommend the free dictionary and vocabulary.com. But also remember that these things don't tell you what words mean. They figure out what words mean after they've been established in the culture. And so you may come across words that are being used in a certain way in the culture by people, everybody even, that aren't in the dictionary in a satisfying way, because the dictionary has a process that follows along culture and picks up the words and the meanings after they've already happened, after they've already been established. That's important to realize. People think dictionaries tell us what words mean. No. They figure out what words mean after they've already been established and popularized. That's how it works. It's not the other way around. They don't say, all right, everyone, here are the 20 new words for this year. No. Nonsense. Nonsense. It goes the other way. Okay? Hopefully that's clear. Guys, if you haven't already, I would really appreciate it deeply and humbly if you would hit the like button. If you're washing your hands or you're washing the dishes and you can't do it, then just lean down like I do and push it with your nose. It takes practice because you have to kind of aim it. You can do it. You can do it. If you have an ad playing at some point, you just hit the next button with your nose. It works. It works. That's what I do. Also, don't forget to subscribe and check out my courses in the links in the description. Okay, hopefully that's clear. Am I the only one who uses their nose to hit the like button and subscribe to things? I can't be the only one. I can't be the only one. There's got to be more. Do you recommend... Luba says, people often think that I am from Ukraine because of the way I pronounce the T sound. Is that a T? Or no, that is a character I don't recognize. Okay. The T sound, the sound. I was born in a region which is close to Ukraine, so people all there have such pronunciation. Makes sense. Makes sense. People all think that I have Martian pronunciation, and I was born on the planet right next to Mars. So, makes sense. The fourth planet. What is proactive? I think we talked about this in the last class. Proactive just means that you go out and you seriously asked me this question last time, and I answered it. It means you go out and do things before you're asked to do them. If you are a proactive person or you do something proactively, it means you take action before people even expect you to take action. It means you take action before maybe you are asked by your boss to take action, or your parent or your teacher. You're a very proactive person. You think about what is needed and you go do it. And so people look at you and they say, wow, you're very proactive. Wow, such a proactive person. Amazing. Very, very noble. Very energetic. I want to hire you, right? That's what it means. That's how it's used. Oh, it's like the G sound. Okay. Got it. Oh, you did hit the like button. Oh, well, thanks. Great. Okay. I'm going to get back to the other questions. I want to show you this video because it's cool. It's very interesting. Very interesting. Are you guys ready for this? So, one thing that's very important to keep in mind is that my heater works. It works very well. One very important thing to keep in mind when it comes to accent pronunciation is that it's not always the same. When people say, for example, a British accent, an American accent, they don't mean only one thing. Within each country, you have different regions, right? People from California maybe speak differently than people from the south of the United States. The southern accent sounds a little slower like this. And people from California, like, maybe talk like this, right? That's a generalization, but that's the idea. Same goes in pretty much every country, if it's big enough. Maybe the world's smallest country, Andorra, maybe they don't have accent differences because everybody's just over there. I don't know. That would be an interesting thing to find out. But it's also true that over time, pronunciation, accents change. The way that people speak normally changes over time as well. If you were to get into a time machine and go back 70 years to 1950, yeah, that's right. If you were to go back to 1950, either to the UK or the United States, you would say, whoa, 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 different, very different. Now, for the UK, it might sound a little bit more formal and serious and stiff. You'd have to ask someone from the UK what it would sound like. In America, it might sound a little bit more, well, it's hard to describe, but I think we can try after we watch it. So let's take a look at a video of high school students speaking. They're answering questions in an interview about fads, trends in their school. These are teenagers, okay? So just pay attention to this. Try to listen for differences in how they speak compared to how Americans, for example, in movies, speak now. So let's watch the video, and then we'll talk about it some more, okay?
Have you noticed any fads in high school? Are there any particular things that everybody does, or everybody wants to do?
Yeah, particularly in dress, I think. I mean, for a while, white bucks were popular. Everybody who could get them got white bucks, and saddle shoes, and now I guess, well, kids just try to imitate college boys, the way I found anyway. I mean, if you're called a Joe College, you're dressed pretty well, I guess. And fads like that do circulate around, yeah.
Are Levi's ever popular, or are they out of style now?
Well, junior high school, I think, was mostly the days for Levi's, but then there are a few kids who come up to school and they still wear their Levi's. And well, but as Alan was talking about this Joe College deal, I think being a university town, the boys and maybe the girls in Ann Arbor like to copy the university students' dress. I mean, which usually consists now of Levi's and a button-down collared shirt open at the top with a sweater and some bucks that you never clean or something like that. I think.
Yeah, it's important that they're not clean, too.
Yes, it is.
Could we ask you girls, have you ever had any criticism about the use of the telephone? I'm sure it wouldn't be true of the fellows, but have your parents ever complained about that?
Not in the last few years.
But there was a day.
I would say 8th and 9th grade, definitely. Oh, there was never a night go by that you were on the telephone. Oh, at least 2 hours. And
What were you doing all that time?
just talking. What are you going to wear to school tomorrow? Did you see that? Did you do this assignment? And somebody just happened to forget a book and give me all the problems. And you have everything. And then it was just a bunch of nothing, really, just blowing hot air. But now I suppose, I mean, in our family, how if someone's on the phone, well, boys, after football practice and got to eat, so they call to make a date, and the girls dashing out to do dishes and going out someplace or for a root beer or something. And short and sweet calls now.
How about dancing? Do you have some special steps that everybody knows?
Bunny hop.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of dances going around. I don't know if everybody does them or not. Some of them, I don't know, I'm getting tired of them. Like the
But there are
bunny hop.
certain fads in dancing that come and go.
Sure, yeah, they just keep
The
traveling.
fast jivey one is a hit one day and
The mambo.
very the next.
Everybody's doing the mambo.
Plug.
Now, one thing they often say, or they're saying more now, I think, than previously, is that too many of the high school kids are going steady. Do you think this is true?
I don't think that high school kids go steady as much as kids in junior high school. I know when I was in junior high school, why, if you went out with a boy once, why, all the other boys just simply wouldn't date you because you were going steady. And so, consequently, most people ended up going steady whether they wanted to or not. I think, though, in high school, the tendency is to date around more and sort of play the field. However, there are those who do go steady because they seem to have found the right one, or so they think.
Mm-hmm. Do parents criticize this at all, going steady business?
You go out with one boy 3 times. I mean, just as an example, you go out with one 3 times, and, she was pretty much in line as his girl. And the guys in Derley are even call her or something. You go out with 3 different guys and you're a dealer. And I mean, you can't win.
It's hard.
All right, so that's it. Very interesting, I think, and hopefully you're able to pick up a few of the big differences, maybe some of the small differences. So now what I'd like to do is just go through a few of these things that reflect the changes from then to now. There are some things that are still common, some things that we still say, that people said typically back then, and some things that to me sound very strange, okay? One thing that I think you'll notice is this sound in the nose. It's a little bit more like this. There's a tendency, it seems like, for people to talk more up in the nose, more so. And now in the north, near Wisconsin, in this area, people tend to talk more through their nose, and it comes out less through their mouth. Whereas now maybe it comes out more through the mouth. That's a general difference, and it's not true for everybody. But that's a sort of thing that I hear when I listen to this, and when I listen to a lot of sort of old movies and TV shows. It's possible that it's because of the recording technology, but some of the people that I know, either from the north, Wisconsin, for example, Minnesota, and people who are from an older generation, they still have this sort of sound. It's a little bit more nasally, we say, a little bit more nasally. Okay, so that's one thing. The other thing I noticed is, to me, just to my ears, and it could be a matter of it just being very subjective, they sound a lot more articulate and a lot smarter than most people I knew when I was in high school. When I was in high school, it seemed like everyone talking to each other sounded like they could barely get a sentence out. You know, and these kids are very articulate. They come across as very intelligent. That's just my impression. And there's always that tendency to look back at things in the past and say, oh, that was classic. That was better, right? So there's that tendency. So that might be part of it. But my feeling is that people in the 1950s tended to focus more on the importance of speaking clearly, having a slight sense of formality about the way that you say things, and that you'd be a little embarrassed if you were lazy in your speech. Whereas now I think that's less important in culture, and it seems like for my own generation as well as generations under me, kids in school now, saying like oh, I don't know, like, you want to go play video games, or like maybe we can just like I don't know, you want to hang out, or like maybe go to the like that sort of that's my feeling about even my own generation of what do you want to say? Say what you want to say, please. Whereas I sense my feeling is when I watch a video like this of kids 70 years ago, I think, oh, they know exactly what they want to say, and they say it. They're very well educated. Again, this is broad, but that's just my impression. Okay, let's go through a couple of specific things that we can see here. A couple of words that might be strange, that are strange to me at least. They talk about 2 different types of shoes. One, bucks, and the other, saddle shoes. So bucks are a type of white shoe, and you can just Google white bucks if you want to. White bucks is what they're called. You can also search saddle shoes. Saddle shoes look the same as white bucks, except they have a black strip over the top. And so they look similar. It's just a style of shoe. You hear someone say Joe College, which is also not a common expression anymore. This is sort of like the stereotypical college person. I want to look like a normal guy in college. So he's saying the trend or the fad, which is, by the way, a common word, fad, is that people want to look like college kids. He says fads do circulate around. By the way, circulate, kind of a more formal word, right? Slightly more formal sounding word. Circulate is not the type of word that I would hear a high school today say very often. Circulate? Like, what? What? Right? They probably wouldn't say it. But here we have kids saying more advanced words. Circulate is one. Another one of the words that's used is consequently, one of the students says consequently. That's extremely formal and considered to be a higher level word, very academic. And consequently, I would say it's sort of a formal sounding university level word that this high school kid is saying. I can't imagine in my wildest dreams some high school kid on the street, because there's a high school near me, saying, consequently, I would say. I can't imagine it. It would be more like, you want to go hang out? And then, it's just different, the way that we express ourselves now. Not everybody talks like that, but there is that different feeling. Okay. The other thing that you might hear there is blowing hot air. The girl's talking about the fad of talking on the phone, because it used to be back then, if you watch movies from the 1950s and 60s, the girls are always on the phone after school, talking to their girlfriends. Instead of hanging out, they're talking on the phone. Blowing hot air. Now, sometimes you will still hear this expression, but it's definitely not that common, and it just means saying nothing or saying nothing important. Are you just blowing hot air? Or sometimes people will say blowing hot gas. So either one of those is okay. Now, a couple of small things I picked out of this. The small things I picked out, one was suppose. Now, we could say I suppose. Most people would say I suppose. She said I suppose. She says it several times. I suppose. It's short for, it's a contraction of suppose, and it was more common then than it is now. So if you watch old movies, you say, oh, I suppose we should probably go. Don't you suppose we should? Don't you suppose we should? Now we would probably just say, I think we should go. Don't you think we should? Or do you think we should go? I think we should go. We tend to use think more, or just say, I want to go. Do you think we should go? I want to go. Okay. Back then they might have used suppose or shortened as suppose. Oh, I suppose so. I suppose so. Definitely less common. She also says root instead of root. This is a pronunciation difference I noticed. She says, oh, they might go off and get a root beer. Now, this is definitely an older type of pronunciation. It's a signal to me. People don't say R-O-O-T as root anymore. Pull it out by the roots. Go have a root beer. It's an older way of saying it. Now we say the oo sound more clearly. A root beer. If we drink root beer at all, pull it out by the roots. I don't hear anybody saying root anymore. Although, maybe people in the older generation, elderly people, maybe my grandma will still say roots. But generally speaking, we'll say root. They talked about a type of dance. The type of dance was the bunny hop. You'll have to Google that separately. I have no idea what the bunny hop is. So the bunny hop is just a type of dance. Now, the other interesting thing that you hear is going steady. Going steady. What does that mean? If someone is going steady, they're dating. When I was in high school, we didn't say going steady. We said going out. Oh, did you hear that Sandra is going out with Titus? What? Sandra and Titus are going out? Yeah, he asked her out. What? He asked her out? Yeah, they're going out. So going out is not just an action of leaving to go somewhere. It is an expression for them being in a relationship. Now, you could also say that they're dating. You could say, oh, they're dating? They're dating. Yes, they're dating. Okay. Back then, people would say going steady. Going steady means dating or going out, but we don't use that expression anymore. Okay. You also heard play the field. Sometimes people do still use that one. That means you might date 10 different people over a period of time. You're not seriously dating anybody. You're not seriously going out with anybody. You are playing the field. Okay, there are a couple other things I want to mention. One, when I was in high school, if you went out with a boy once, now she says why there. Why does she say why? And what would we say now? Well, she says why because it's a thinking word. She doesn't mean anything by it. There's no meaning. Why, when I was in school, she said exactly, when I was in school, why, if I went out with a boy once, that's exactly what she says. And then she says why again later in the sentence. It's just a thinking word that people used to use. Okay? We don't use it anymore. What do we use? Sometimes like, but I don't like that one. Don't use like. But we do say, those are pretty common. And are common thinking words. I'm not saying you should use them. I'm just saying that's what people usually use nowadays. Whereas back then, people might have said why and oh more often. You often hear people in old movies say, oh, well, as a thinking word, as well as why. It's a sort of, I don't know what to say right now, so I'm thinking for a second. Give me a second, right? And every language has those. They change over time, right? They change over time. Anything else? Yeah, so that's pretty much it. This noisy siren outside. Sirens all the time recently. So the thing to take away from this, I think, is that pronunciation doesn't stay the same. In a country, it varies by region. It varies by maybe level of social status sometimes. For example, maybe very rich people in England speak very differently than lower class people, right? There's a sort of way that they speak generally. And also this varies through time. The way that language changes over time includes changes in the words we use, but also the sounds that we make, the accent that we have. And it's important to realize that because as you learn languages, as you learn English, you're not learning a thing. Like, oh, once I learn English, I've learned a thing. No, you're learning this. You're becoming part of this stream that's constantly changing. That's what you're doing. You're learning something that's constantly changing, and you have to change with it. And you have to keep your eyes and your ears open to those changes in norms. It'll happen naturally if you're really part of it, if you absorb it, if you watch movies, if you listen to podcasts, if you learn words in context, if you read novels, you will notice these things and pick them up automatically. But it's important to realize that you're not just learning and then done. It's this process and a thing that you join. And once you join it, you might even influence it a little bit, slightly. You might bring something from your culture and into the conversations that you have. And the conversations that you have might slightly make a little dent in the shape of this thing that's constantly moving forward. That's the nature of languages. It's not a monolith. It is this process that's unfolding over time, and it never stops, and it never will. That's how it works. That's how languages change. So hopefully, at least this was interesting. Look out for this sort of pronunciation differences in regions and in movies. Whether you're watching a movie in the 70s or a recent movie, try to pay attention to these differences because it'll help you sharpen your ear. If you haven't already, make sure you hit the like button. I would appreciate that. Make sure you subscribe. Check out my courses in the links in the description. And that's it. Why does my website not work? What? Unbelievable. Can't believe it. How could it be? It's working fine. It's working just fine. cloudenglish.net. It'd be scary if it wasn't working because I have all kinds of security features to protect it and keep it safe. Because I did build my own website one time a long time ago and it got hacked and everything was destroyed. So now I am very careful. So yeah. It's working fine, friends. That's my website. That's the website. By the way, the courses I mentioned, they are all on sale now. The first one, for example, is 92. Jeez. Ugh, that's not good for me. Maybe good for you guys, but not good for me. 92% off. Stop it, Udemy. Stop putting the course sales too much. We're having trouble reaching our servers. Well, I don't know what to tell you. It's working for me. Can someone else try it? Let me know. Let me know if it's working for you guys. Show me how it's pronounced. THS at the end of the word maths and thoughts. Thanks, Luba. Well, THS isn't at the end of the word thoughts. It's GHS. So might have to come up with some other slightly different examples there because That one doesn't end with THS, right? Right? Right. All right, I'm going to go back and see if I missed any of your guys' questions. Oh, good. My website works. Thank God. Thank goodness. Well, I've got 3 people who say it's working. Hip, hip, hooray. Probabilistically, Saeed, I think it might be on your end. You know what works? You can try 2 different things. Let me help you troubleshoot. If you've got the box that your Wi-Fi comes out of, the router, you bang on the top. Bang, bang, bang. 3 times. And then say a little prayer and try again. If that doesn't work, then unplug it from the wall, from the internet, from all the cords, unplug it and throw it into the ocean. Yeah! And then buy a new one. That's my advice. And I'm a technical expert, so my advice is definitely right. Okay, I'm just checking through some of questions I may have missed in the comments. Let's see here. We have... Wushu worked. Wushu tried it. Wait, you tried what? The website, or you tried throwing your router into the ocean? Which one? Because if the second one works, that's amazing. That would be amazing. Okay. Guys, please don't bill me for the routers that are in the ocean, please. This is a joke channel. It's not serious. All right. Some teachers say it's good to use filler words to buy time when we need to think when we're having a conversation, but I don't trust them. Well, it's not that you can't use them. Everybody uses them automatically. It's not that you can't use them. So you're supposed to tell people, don't use them, don't use them. But the fact is, no matter who you are on the planet, you will use filler words, right? It's sort of like, what's it like? Oh, here's an example. You say to someone's on a serious diet, and they ask you, who's their nutritionist. The nutritionist is someone who advises them. And they say, can I eat chocolate cake? What do you say? Yeah, you can have some chocolate cake. No, because if you say, yes, you can have some chocolate cake, give an inch, take a mile. You know that expression? Give an inch, take a mile. You've given them an inch, they're going to eat a whole cake because they said, oh, my nutritionist told me I could have chocolate cake. No, what you say is, no, absolutely not. You cannot have any chocolate cake. No. Very bad. Chocolate cake. You can't have even a single small tiny little bite. But everybody knows that late at night you're going to sneak into the kitchen and say, I can't resist, and you're going to take a couple bites of chocolate cake, okay? So it's sort of like an unspoken agreement. The nutritionist says no as a way to push you as close as possible toward 0, even though most people are going to crack every once in a while and sneak into the kitchen for a couple nibbles of cake or donut or whatever it is, right? That's how the world works. That's how human psychology works. And so an English teacher is supposed to say, don't use any thinking words. Don't say don't say don't say like. No. You're not allowed. Everybody knows. Everybody uses them. So if the teacher says, you should use thinking words, please use thinking words, they're great, then it's encouraging the wrong thing. So the English teacher here is like the nutritionist. We're trying to push you as close as possible to 0, even though everybody knows, everybody uses thinking words. I use thinking words. Everybody uses thinking words. That's just how the world works. That's how the human brain works. So it's the dynamics between the teacher and the student that you should be paying attention to, not that advice. Oh, okay. Viewers, don't forget to click the like button. Wow, Johnny's right. Johnny's right. Good advice, Johnny. There are more than 20 viewers, but only a few likes. You know what? I think Johnny has some solid advice for you guys to follow. What do you think about the idea of learning how to place your tongue in your mouth in a native way in order to reduce your accent? Yes, Yes, I mean, I have a whole course about how to place your tongue in your mouth, and another course coming up about how to place your tongue in your mouth. It's the way that you begin the process of building habits around pronunciation, right? If you learn that requires you to bend your tongue backward up toward the back of your mouth and only let air out in the middle and push your lips slightly forward and say then you're going to have the feeling of that that's then going to turn into a habit if you practice it enough times, right? In the same way, if you want to remove an accent, right? The example I tend to give is the D sound for the Indian accent, right? If someone says, for example, daughter, they might say daughter, that d sound is deeper than the d sound. So the Indian D sound is farther in the back of the mouth and hits the top of the soft palate. Whereas that's why you get that in the Indian sound, right? If you push it forward and you recognize that pushing it forward closer to your teeth and pushing it against the hard palate makes it all it is a difference of moving my tongue from here up forward closer to my teeth, and that's the more natural English sound. Once you practice that enough, you fix that. If you don't care about that, I don't care. I'm not telling anybody what their goals should be, right? I think people suggest, oh, you're an English teacher. You must want everybody to speak like an American. No, I don't care. I don't care what you want to do. It doesn't matter to me. I'm here to help if you need help, right? That's what my role is. What if your goal is to just learn words and that's all you want to do? That's fine with me. All I can do is provide resources and materials and answer questions and give you things. I am a tool that you may use to improve yourself. But I can't define what your goals are for you, right? You have to define your own goals. And if you don't care about your accent, then I don't care about your accent, right? I certainly don't care. I like accents. I think they're interesting. Nobody has to talk like an American as far as I'm concerned. I think American pronunciation is pretty annoying most of the time. Okay, Luke, can you do a Russian accent? That's one that's really tough for me. It's very tough. It's very tough. If you give me a sentence, I'll try to read it in a Russian accent, but it'll be just my rough attempt. Give me a sentence and I'll try. I'm willing to try any accent because I think accents are so cool. I love different accents. This is my favorite thing. Okay, Richard says, do you recommend learning? Lolly Lolly says, you are a great tool, Luke. Hey, thanks, Lolly Lolly. That means a lot to me. I like that sentence. You're a great tool. Do you recommend learning new words by heart? Because my friend always do that, and they're struggling to recall them in the future. Do you recommend Anki in order to help you learn intuitively? I knew what you meant, Lolly Lolly. I knew what you meant. Oh, the sentence is, let me give it. Do you? Okay, do you? We have to put there, right? You think this is a bad neighborhood? And you want me to try that in a Russian accent? Oh, this is going to be a disaster. The Russian tends to have more of a S sound instead of a TH sound, right? So it's a sink instead of a think, right? And instead of this, it's this. And the hood sound in Russian seems to be more like a hu, right? As far as I know. You think this is a bad neighborhood. No, that's not good. You think... no, that's too close to Chinese now. Oh, God, that's a tough one. I need a coach on my Russian English. This is bed. Bed. Oh, I know that's one thing. The bad sounds like bed. Bed. instead of bad is one. Definitely, for sure. The sentence is written in a Russian accent. Yes, I have been to India. Yeah. I like that the sentence is written in a Russian accent. I can do a French accent a little better, I think. Let me try this in different accents just to practice. Okay, so Chinese English is, you think this is a bad neighborhood. You think this is a bad neighborhood. Or actually, there's a question. You think this is a bad neighborhood? Let's see. French, maybe? Do French use the TH sound? Oh, that's a bad sentence for the French one. You speak English much better. I'm good. That's good. You should. Let's see. I need a sentence for French. Do you recommend learning new words by heart? Because my friends always do that, and we are struggling to recall them in the future. That's my rough French accent. Japanese. I can try Japanese. Do you recommend learning new words by heart? Because my friends always do that and are struggling to recall them in the future. Do you recommend Anki in order to help you retain it or just intuitively? Japanese. Indian. Do you recommend learning new words by heart? Because my friend always do that and struggling to recall them in future use. To recommend Anki. Persian. I don't know about Persian. What's Persian sound like? I'd have to listen to some examples to try it. Texas accents like this. You guys, let me read that same sentence. Do you recommend learning new words by heart? Because my friends always do that, and they're struggling to recall them in future use. Do you recommend Anki in order to help you retain, or just intuitively? Oh, thank you so much. Let's see, California. Do you recommend learning new words by heart? Because my friends always do that and are struggling to recall them in future use. Do you recommend Anki in order to help me retain, or just intuitively? That's like a girl, Valley Girl, trying to do Valley Girl. Are there any others? Australian is really hard for me. That one's tough. Very hard. Recommend? Yeah, I can't do Australian. I have to use only certain sentences. Oh my God, British is tough too. British accent. Yeah. Do you recommend learning new words by heart? Because my friends always do that and are struggling to recall them in future use. Do you recommend Anki in order to help you retain, or just intuitively? Now, that is kind of like a cartoon British accent. That's not even good cartoon British accent. Like, not a real British accent. A real British person would say, that's not how we talk, right? So, that's sort of like the cartoony, like the Queen of England, how she talks. Do you recommend learning new words by heart? Because my friends always do that and are struggling to recall them. That's how the Queen talks, you know. got me on Irish. Irish. I don't know about that one. That's a tough one for me. I have to practice that one. Peruvian, another one I don't have much experience with. You practice that. Got to practice my Peruvian. Got to practice my Korean too. Korean, I got to work on. Yeah, posh British. Yeah. New Yorkers talk like this. If you go to New York, I don't talk like this because I'm not from New York. But if you're classic and you're about 65 years old and you're from Brooklyn, you might talk like this. Sounds like you don't care. Sounds like you're a little angry. Might be from Boston, might be from New York. It's the same kind of sound. Do you recommend learning new words by heart? Because my friends always do that and they're struggling to recall them in the future. Do you recommend Anki in order to help you retain it, or just intuitively? Any others? Canadian, maybe? Canadian. Nah, Canadian is too close. Trump accent. The only thing you do to do a Trump accent, there's only one person who does a good Trump accent. All of the people who try do it badly, including me. The only person who does it well, if you want to see a good person imitating, his name is Anthony Atamanuik. Anthony Atamanuik or Tony Atamanuik does a great Donald Trump, but his lips are always forward. Do you recommend learning new words by heart? 'Cause my friends always do that, and they're always struggling to recall them and use them in future. Recommend Anki in order to help you retain, or just intuitively. He's got that sort of raspy sound. Terrible Donald Trump. I apologize for that. Terrible. But there's a guy, I'm just going to send his name because you want to see an actual real good one. You can check out this guy on YouTube. Anthony, huge. Got to have the lips fully out. Huge. My Trump is terrible. But this guy is the one you want to find. So you can search this guy on YouTube, and he's great. He does a real Trump that's actually good. But yeah, the basics are, I think, stretching the lips forward, having a little bit of and then moving the fingers like this, doing a lot of this and a lot of this. Anything like that is Trumpish, but still, if you want to be really good at it, you got to be Anthony Atamanuik. He's amazing. I saw him live, and it was glorious. It was great. From Ohio, the only thing that we do from Ohio, which is where I'm from, is there's some words that kind of it's not Texas. It's what's called kind of redneck. People talk like this. It's kind of got curled. Everything curled down a little bit. Some people talk like this. Depends on where you come from, but it's a little different than Texas. It's not so relaxed. Texas is long and slow and but then where I come from, the redneck area, is very short and curled, but still kind of missing some words. And they say things like, instead of pretty near, they say pert near. I was driving my truck down 242, and I saw a deer crossing the road, and I took out my gun and I tried to shoot at the deer there, and I pert near hit it right in the head, but the bullet done grazed its neck, and the deer got away, and I was so mad. I got back in my truck, drove through the field for about 4 to 5 minutes. I even drove into the forest, try to catch the deer, but then I got stuck in the mud, and then that next thing I know, I woke up 2 days later, and I was still in my truck. Air conditioning is on full blast, and I couldn't get out, and I got lost, and I had a spiritual awakening in there in the forest, and I came back several days later a new man, and I vowed never to hunt deers again. That's the extreme version of the Ohio redneck. Not that strong. Most people don't talk like that, but I mean, redneck is kind of more like that. New Jersey, I don't know what, I have no idea. New Jersey, no idea. No clue. African American, but don't say the N-word. I don't even know about that one. I mean, I can't do one well. Hawaiian, do Hawaiians have an accent? No idea. No idea. I can try, the last one I think I could try is, this is the last one, and then I'm going to show you guys another video, is trying to do an Australian accent, because there are some things that I can say with an Australian accent, but then it often falls away and slips into a British accent. It's like these about 17 people sitting in my backyard waiting for my sister to come out and feed them. Next thing I saw, some gators, I guess I should say crocs, came out and attacked them. Now I'm slipping into the New Zealand accent because I don't know the difference. And it's a little bit hard to find the line between, because sometimes the people in New Zealand, they say seven, but the Australians, they don't say seven. They might say seven. So I don't know the difference between them, and I always get back and forth between them, and I get mixed up, and I get all confused, and eventually it becomes kind of a strange mix of the two, and I get lost, and I don't know what I'm saying anymore, and then I can't say anything right, and it starts to sound kind of like a bizarre South African sort of Australian, New Zealand sort of British kind of Canadian mix hybrid language that doesn't sound like anything at all. And then people say, "What's that?" And I say, "I don't know what it is. I can't quite pinpoint it. It's hard to say. All I know is I got to go up at the end of each phrase I say. I got to go up at the end. Sound like it's a question. And if I have a question tone, I know I'm in the South Pacific. At least I'm in the South Pacific. If I'm not there, I don't know where I am. How do we say am? I don't know because I'm not from there. Oh, right. I should answer Richard's question. All right, we got distracted. Time to get back on track, guys. Get back on track. All right. It is time to get back on track. Let's see. I got to scroll all the way up to that question. Where is Richard's question? Let's see. I wish I could sort of tag questions and save them, and then put them in like a waiting list that could pop up next, because there's a lot of scrolling happening, and I feel like it's not very convenient. All right, there it is. Hey. Yeah, lolly, what did you do? No more. We're done. Okay. So Richard says, do you recommend learning new words by heart? Because my friends do that and are struggling to recall them in the future. Do you recommend Anki in order to help you retain it, or just intuitively? You'd think that after reading this 1,000 times in different accents, I would be able to say it clearly. Apparently not. Well, it's a good question. So, how do you learn words? And do you need to memorize them? And how do you connect them to your daily use so that when it comes to a time when I need to use the word, it's right there at the tip of my tongue. I can actually spit it out of my mouth and use it, right? So there are a couple of important things, but the main thing, the most important, is that every word you learn, if you hope to use it, if you don't hope to use it and you don't care, then learn 1,000 words a day, fine with me. That's great. But if you hope to use it, it has to be in context. Not only because you need to know how to use the word, not only because it helps to remember it, but because every word has a connotation. A connotation is the feeling that a word creates, right? So if I say just take a word, learn a word, and then say I'm going to use this word the same way in all situations, you're probably at some point going to find yourself saying something that makes other people feel uncomfortable. Why? Because this word might fit well in this situation, but not in another situation. And I don't mean just going to different countries. I mean in different situations. I don't talk the same way around everybody. There are sort of different personalities with different vocabulary lists in my head that pop out when I'm talking to different kinds of people. For example, if I'm doing a live stream, I will speak differently than if I'm talking to my brother. If I'm talking to my brother, I'll speak differently than if I'm in a meeting, a business meeting, or trying to communicate something clearly, or doing my podcast, or whatever, different groups of people. And it's not something I'm necessarily choosing or deciding, it's that it comes out because I know the correct context to use those words in. So that's the most important thing. Before we talk about memorization, you've got to talk about context. So that's why it's so important to learn from reading, to read books and pick out words from the sentence and pay careful attention to how they're used in the sentence. And that's why it's important when you use a dictionary to look at the example sentences under the word so that you can see, okay, it's used in this way. It's used that way. It's used in this way as an adjective, and that way as a noun, and that way as another noun. Oh, okay. And to try to get a feeling for it, you have to swim in that context, or rather those contexts, those examples. That's another reason why watching movies can be a great way to get a feeling for words and phrases, whether you're watching seriously and actively or more passively. So all of that is good. Okay. Number 1, context. Number 2, how do you remember? Well, we've definitely talked about this in other videos, but the basic idea is that you have to find what works for you. If the basic question is, do I need to remember words? Yeah, you do. If you want to use words, of course you have to remember them. You can't not remember words and use them, right? Because you can't walk around your life with a piece of paper and all the words you need to use and go, hold on a second, wait, page 37, Rosicrucianism. That's the one I wanted to use, right? So you can't just say I'm not going to remember words or commit them to memory, right? You have to learn them. You have to learn them in the context, and you have to do it in a way that fits you. What fits you? Does Anki work for you? Try Anki. If you can remember and use words after you use the Anki method, it's a flashcard system, then great, use it. Great, use it. Flashcards, Anki, good. If you prefer the method of only learning things that you're forced to use because of your job, for example, also great, maybe even the best, right? You're in a job that requires you to speak English, and you're always hearing words that you don't know, so you write them down throughout the day. You definitely know the context because you know what situation they're used in, so you write them down and you come home and you look them up. And then you know them and you know how to use them and you remember them, because if you don't, everyone's going to look at you and say, what are you saying? I don't understand you, right? This is probably the fastest way to learn English naturally and effectively, is to have work pressure on you. Colleagues judging you if you don't say things clearly, right? That's the best way, probably. That pressure is good. That pressure forces you to know it. If you don't know it, it's sink or swim. You're going to look silly, right? Or Anki, if you have more time and it's more casual, great, Anki. Or, we've talked about in the past, the Mind Palace method. That works for some people. The Mind Palace method is when you create a stickiness to each word that connects it to its meaning in a specific context that you can revisit in your mind later. And then you don't have to repeat it many times like Anki or flashcards. All you have to do is visit that place in your mind and it pops up automatically. Oh my God, how could I forget that word and that meaning? Because the example that you created to remember it is so powerful and so sticky and so strange, perhaps, right? Maybe, I don't know, people running around covered in strawberry jam, whatever it is, whatever example you created. You create a little world in your head, and the words are connected to very strange things. That's good. Whatever works. So I would say, find all possible ways to memorize, learn in context, read, watch movies, and listen to podcasts and watch videos. Surround yourself with a language, and you'll be fine, okay? Prioritize using over learning, though, because there is a tendency for people to say, oh, I'm going to learn 25 words every day. Right, but do you know how to use all 25 words? It's better to learn 10 words a day that you actually know how to use than to use or learn 25 words that you don't even know how to use. You might feel great. It's how I learned 25 words. Oh, I'm so happy, right? But you don't know how to use them, so you've just wasted 4 hours, right? Much better to learn 10 words in a high-quality way so that you can actually pull them out and use them in a conversation when you need to. And that goes for common expressions too. Quality over quantity. Very good question. Thanks for asking, Richard. I hope it's clear. Guys, if you haven't already, please don't forget to hit the like button. I would appreciate that. And also hit the subscribe button if you want to see future videos, future live streams. And don't forget to check out my full English courses if you want to learn English in a more serious and long-winded way. Check out my courses in the links in the description. Good question. American accent different from Canadian accent? Yes, it is. But sometimes it's hard to tell because there are a lot of similarities. But for example, if you watch, there's a tech channel called Linus Tech Tips. I don't know if anyone's ever watched that. I like to watch it. They do phone reviews and computer reviews and stuff. When they use the word, you can go ahead and close the door. When Canadians use the word about, instead of saying about, as most Americans will say it, they'll say aboot. I've been thinking about that. They'll say aboot more so than about, whereas Americans use the ow sound. Ow, ooh, ow, aboot. For example, instead of house, Americans will say house. Canadians might more so say hoose, hoose, my hoose, my house, my house, hoose. More like that. Now, I think that that's definitely kind of a stereotypical pronunciation difference. In reality, they're very similar, very, very similar, with different regions having more differences. So certain parts of Canada might have more extreme differences where those things are more clear. But maybe in Toronto, for example, it's very similar than, for example, close to Michigan. You can't really tell the difference between them. So there's a distance factor as well. And if you go to Quebec, I mean, they speak French, so that's a totally different thing. Swamp people. Troy tells the story. Funny accent. I'll have to check that out. Canadians will tell you they don't have an accent, and some are quite indistinguishable until they say, yeah, exactly. Out, oot, aboot, and hoose. There you go. Those are the ones. Those are the words. But it's pretty minor. I mean, I barely notice. Sometimes I do say, was that an aboot? Ah, aboot. Ah. But the only other difference is they often say Z instead of Z. So they'll say HZ, for example, instead of HZ. Americans say Z, and Canadians say Z, Z-E-D, Z, Z, as in Z. So we say Z, they say Z. That's the difference. Okay. Well, since we're talking about accent, maybe we can talk about accent. So let's take a look at another video. I'm going to take a sip of coffee. You've probably heard of the phrase Valley Girl. What the heck does Valley Girl mean? Well, Valley Girl is, let's say, a type of person who speaks a certain way, and it has a name. I would say that Valley Girl has spread from California, which is where Valley Girl gets its name, California Girl, a certain area in California called the Valley, that has spread across the country and is spreading around the world. I think the reason that people say like a lot in native English, and like we like or and I was like, as in I said. I think the reason for that is this sort of trend that started in California with what we call Valley Girl. Now, we'll talk about some of the specific elements that make up Valley Girl, but before we do that, I want to show you a quick video to give you a sense for what this sounds like. Now, you're going to hear a Valley Girl from someone who is not a Valley Girl, from Emilia Clarke from Game of Thrones. She does a good one, though. So we'll listen to the stereotypical Valley Girl, and then we'll talk about some of the things inside of it. So let's take a look.
I also understand that you do, and I was dying to hear this, you do a great Valley Girl impersonation. 'Cause I have a teenage daughter, so I love that voice appeals to me.
Uh-huh. I don't know, it's because I watched like a lot of American TV when I was growing up that I just like love in California. It's like makes me really happy.
Wait.
That's amazing.
But you have a character. You have a character.
No, but I feel like you could totally be friends with my daughter.
Oh my God, yes.
This could be like if you could watch the Kardashians together all the time.
Right?
You
And,
could
The
like watch them all
Bachelorette.
the time because we could have the best time.
We would have like so much fun.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It's like we need our own show. That's
We
that's
totally
the whole thing.
need our
I
own
know.
show because my mom's show is like so boring.
All right, so now notice a couple of the characteristics of that. Notice one, that when you watch movies from anywhere or when you meet especially younger people, maybe below the age of 40, you hear certain things there, especially the word like and oh my God and so and totally. We'll get into the specifics, but you'll hear these things everywhere. My theory goes, we're all English speakers are slowly becoming Valley Girls, or at least we're influenced by them. But the Valley Girl is this much stronger thing, this much stronger style of speaking, maybe even style of being. Who knows? It might be a kind of spiritual practice or energy. I don't know. But whatever it is, they both know what they're talking about. They close their eyes when they speak and they think, and the sound comes out of their noses more so, right? And it sounds a little bit lazy, like I can barely put forward the energy to open my mouth and say something. And as soon as I even think in that way, my eyes begin to close and the air starts coming out of my nose and my tongue sticks out a little more. And like I start using the word like more and more and so much, like totally. And so you'll hear certain words like that in a sort of behavior and a sort of pattern of speech that feels familiar in some ways. Because, again, I think we're all slowly becoming Valley Girls. And I mean that. Not completely 100%, but I will sometimes find the word like inappropriately used as a thinking word, or as in I said, and I'll say instead, and I was like. I find myself saying it sometimes. It pops out of my head. Sometimes. And I think it's because we're all slowly becoming Valley Girls. So, a few of the specific things here. Number one, what does like mean? Well, like means nothing. Like, we were like, thinking word. So it's sort of the same as and like. Thinking words change over time. Thinking words change by culture. But those are two common thinking words that we use now. We use and now like is very common. But if you hear people say, I was like, it means that's what I did, or that's what I was thinking when this happened. And when he said that, I was like, what? And that doesn't mean I said what. It might mean I said what, but it might mean also that I was thinking, I can't believe this, in my own head. It could be either one. It could also be what we do, right? Sometimes action is like. So that's how it's used. Now, you also hear so. So is used usually to stretch something. I miss you so much, right? I want it so badly. And it's fine, but it's definitely used more in this sort of Valley Girl English. It's so good. So great. This is so I find that the Valley Girl way of speaking sort of stretches things and pushes it towards its what's called a superlative. A superlative is when you go to the farthest end of something. It's the best. It's totally great. It's amazing. It's fantastic, right? It's so good. It's so great. It's so interesting. It's so terrible. It pushes it closer toward the extreme, and that's why you hear so a lot. So it's not that so is incorrect or anything. It's just that I think it's more often used in the Valley Girl English. Also, oh my God. Oh my God. Usually we think of oh my God as this extreme expression, like, oh my God. Oh my God. What's happening, right? But in Valley Girl English, we say, oh my God. It's just part of the natural flow of sounds coming out. Oh my God, you can't believe what happened yesterday. Oh my God. Oh my God. Anywhere is fine. And it doesn't have to actually mean some sort of moment of shock or surprise. No, it doesn't mean that anymore in this way of thinking. And now I think it's becoming part of normal English to say, oh my God, in a way that's much less extreme. Before it was used as, oh my God, and now it's just, oh my God, you won't believe what Kevin said to me 5 minutes ago. It doesn't mean that it's some crazy thing. It might just be some normal thing that he said. He said he's gonna go to Starbucks. It could be something very ordinary. This is the idea of pushing things closer toward the superlative, toward the extreme. And it's the same with totally. It's totally amazing. It's so totally amazing and totally great. So this idea of using totally and amazing to talk about ordinary, normal, everyday things is, again, pushing toward the superlative, pushing toward the extreme. And that's what we get with Valley Girl English. And that's what's sort of becoming part of the normal way of speaking, especially in American English. But I see it popping up elsewhere in the world too. People start talking like this. They start using oh my God more and totally more and so more and especially like more. And the last one that they use more is literally. Literally. But it's said as literally. Very kind of like, you have to put yourself to sleep, half asleep to do it correctly. You have to sort of close your eyes and you have to imagine that you've just had 7 glasses of Chardonnay and you have to barely have the energy to say anything. And then is like, don't try that hard. And use, oh my God, and so, like that. And then you say literally to mean that's actually what I mean. And literally, I'm literally starving to death. I'm literally dying. Except, what does literally mean? Literally means that you are actually dying. What, you're dying? Really? Literally means this is truly happening to me. That's the meaning of the word literally. Right? Someone's literally starving. That means they're skin and bone and they're about to die from not eating enough food for 7 months, right? That's what that means. Except, again, we're pushing things toward the superlative. That means that extreme expressions, oh my God, literally, so, totally, amazing, they're all being normalized and they're losing their power. So now when we say I'm literally dying, it doesn't mean you're literally dying. It just means I'm bored, right? I'm literally dying from boredom. So what that really means is you're just bored. I'm literally starving. So what you're saying is you're hungry. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. So you're not literally dying. No. You're just hungry? Yeah, I'm literally starving to death. So that's the idea. That's the trend. That's the pattern. And look out for it in every kind of situation. In movies, look out for it in the workplace. Even more formal situations, people who are in their 30s, 40s, you'll hear people use, especially like, and oh my God, and so. You'll hear it. And it's slowly spreading like a virus around the world. Before you know it, we're all going to be Valley Girls. That's my theory. All right, guys, if you haven't already, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you subscribe, and make sure you check out my courses in the description. If you have any questions about this, let me know in the comments. Okay, let me know in the comments. I read all the comments. All right. So hopefully that was interesting. I think it's a good video. I think Amelia Clarkson does a good Valley Girl. It's a good way to see the quick contrast because she's British She's a British accent, and then switches immediately to the Valley Girl. Yeah, that really is how you do Valley Girl. Just you drink 7 glasses of white wine, and then you try to say things. And don't forget to say totally, literally, oh my God, like, and so. And then you got it. And make sure your tongue is kind of hanging out of your mouth and your eyes are half open. Is G pronunciation changed when you're saying words like chilling and doing at the end of a sentence? That's a pretty good one. The pronunciation is suggestion. Ahmed says how to pronounce the word suggestion. Suggestion. So the first one is a hard G. G. Second one is like a J sound. J. It's called the soft G. Suggestion. 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 You don't let the first G go, though. You don't say suggestion. It's suggestion. Suggestion, like that. All right, so Saeed CYPPP says, is G pronunciation changed when you're saying words like chilling and doing at the end of a sentence? It's a very good question because I have to say that it is. Normally when we say G, we say it either as J or G. Now if we say a word like, for example, suggestion, we're using both the G and the J sound. The G sound is the hard sound, and the J sound is the soft sound, which sounds like J, right? The normal rule is if E, I, or Y follows a G, then it's going to be soft. Now there are plenty of exceptions to that. For example, you could say gift is a hard G sound, but it is followed by an I. But gist, for example, is a soft G sound, and gentle is a soft G sound, and gym, G-Y-M, is a soft G sound. It's the J sound, right? Whereas the others are hard, G, right? So that's the general G-E-N, general idea, right? But when it's at the end with ing, it's kind of special. The G sound doesn't make the kind of G sound we normally think of when we think of a G. Instead, we're doing this. Now, the important difference is to not make the N sound. Na. So when you want to make the G-I-N-G sound, put the back of your tongue up against the back of your throat as far as you can. And then release it forward. Nga. When it's closed, you'll notice that all of the air is coming out of your nose. So what you can do is put your thumb up against your nose and do this. Notice, you can even do 2 fingers if you want. Notice that you'll feel some air coming out of your nose holes, also called nostrils, and not out of your mouth. No air is coming out of my mouth, but there is air coming out of my nose, right? Because when I'm pushing the back of my tongue up against the back of my throat, it's forcing the air out. Now you might say, okay, well, what's the difference between that and the N sound? The N sound is You hear the difference? There is a difference. One sounds a little deeper and more nasally, and the other one sounds like the air's gone into my mouth and then out through my nose again. In the N sound, we're going to put the tip of the tongue up. We're still blocking all the air. All the air is still coming out through the nose, right? But the difference is that it's the front of the tongue that's blocking, behind the teeth. Na. A good way to hear the difference is to release it and close it many times, and then you can very clearly hear the difference. Some people can't hear, for example, They are different. They feel different. They are different. It's hard to tell the difference until you release them. So a good way to practice it is to release it quickly. So N like this. But if we put it in the back, then it's going to sound very different. nga, na, nga, na, right? Now, the reason this is tough is because with words like, for example, chilling, we're not always releasing the nga sound like that, but we still have to put it in that position. So even if you don't say chilling nga and release it out, at least you have to put your tongue in that position. Push it up to the back of your throat and close it off. Okay? So chilling is different than chillin'. Chilling, chillin'. The other difference is that I am stretching my mouth a little wider if I say ing instead of in. Chillin', my mouth is relaxed. Chilling, I'm smiling wider, right? And the back of my tongue is pushed up. Chilling, 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 chillin', chillin', chillin'. Now, chillin' is a sort of casual, informal way to say chilling, so you'll hear that. And a lot of music will use the IN apostrophe instead of the ING, which is fine. But generally speaking, if you want to say the ING clearly, you have to make sure you get the tongue back up there. The other one was doing, right? Doing, can you say doing? D-O-I-N apostrophe? Yeah, a lot of people say, what are you doing? What are you doing? In fact, most people probably say, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Right? With the N, the front of the tongue comes up to block. But if you're saying, what are you doing? What are you doing? I'm smiling a little bit more, and the back of the tongue is the one coming up. So that's the difference between these. That's how we say these clearly. And you have to really notice the difference in the feeling and the way that the air comes out of the nose. It's tough, it's subtle, but you have to practice it in order to sound totally, totally natural. Hopefully that helps, Saeed. And thank you for the question. Guys, don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe and check out my courses in the links in the description. Okay. Speaking of accents, why do some people put a T sound in the word else? They literally say else. Yeah. The reason is because they want to irritate other people around them. Anyone else? Anyone else? Does anyone else want to go? Who else? Who else? What else? What else should we do? Drives me crazy. Drives me nuts. I hate it. That the answer to your question is, yeah. The answer to your question is this world is a simulation, and the people who are running the simulation computer program are doing things to specifically infuriate other people like myself. That's why. All right. Well, guys, I think we're going to have to call it a day for today. We had some really good questions, though. Very hard to Americans make the end of the word like Manhattan, written, captain. But again, it's just the N sound, basic N sound. N, it's that one. Captain, Manhattan. And if you want to practice it, you just release it. N, Manhattan, N, captain, N, written, N, Manhattan, N. Captain, written, n. If you just practice that n, front is blocked. The front of your tongue is blocking, so the air is coming out of your nose, not the back. If you practice releasing it, then you can get the feeling for it. But then finally, when you say the word Manhattan, written, captain, we don't actually release it like n, but it is there. It's in the right place. We just don't push it out at the end. That's the idea. Okay, guys. Well, I'm getting a little tired. I have some work to do on an upcoming course. So thanks so much for joining. Thank you so much for the great questions. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for everything. I appreciate it. If I missed any questions, I apologize. I'll try to get to them in the next one. We're probably going to be doing 2 live classes a week, maybe 3 sometimes. For forever, for the next 70 or 80 years. So make sure you join next week. And I'll try to get them as regular as possible. I'm really trying to get them as regular as possible. If you want to ask about them and ask other questions, make sure you join the WhatsApp group. If you want to, you can also join the Facebook group. That would be great. And again, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for joining. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.